All right, we are live. So, welcome to the first episode of a new podcast I'm doing called Writer's Journey, where I'll be interviewing different writers through all walks of life on their personal experiences, as well as what writing means to them, as well as maybe them sharing some of their writings. So for today, what I'm doing is interviewing my friend and writer, Nadir Hashmi. So instead of me just talking about him as if he's not there, let's just bring him on and then we can have a nice little chat. He's had some really interesting life experiences, recently going to the Sahara Desert as well for a writer's trip, which I'm very excited to discuss with him about and share with the audience as well. And definitely a wonderful poet and just writer overall. So let's bring him on, and then we can get this going. And anybody who has any comments, please feel free to put it in the comments, and we will try to address it during this podcast. And definitely, if you're watching this later in a non-live version, you can drop a comment as well, and I will check back and respond. So, let's keep this interaction going. All right. So, hey, let's bring you on. What's up?
Ken.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me over to this. This is really great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is I was thinking I missed your podcast. So naturally I was like, let me just bring him on mine.
Mine is more of a book club kind of thing. But I think what you're doing is more evergreen, let's just say.
Well, I think every podcast serves its own purpose. So this one I hope to have it be something which anybody who loves literature or is doing writing could benefit from. So I mean, I know you decently well, but the audience at large has no idea who you are. So what's your tell me a little bit about, or tell us I should say, a little bit about your background and when you first started writing in your life.
I'll start and try not to make this a therapy session.
Sure. Like writing's therapy for me part of the time too.
Right. For me as a person, I think, just talking chronologically, was born in Texas. My family's from Pakistan. I grew up there, have my roots there, all my family is over there. Went to college, studied business, and then after starting my career there in marketing, I relocated back to Texas. And it was kind of like a journey establishing myself as an immigrant here without any structured support from classmates or a job, etc., which was its own journey that really helped me explore my foundations as a writer, I'd say. And for the past 7 years, I've been in Seattle, where I went again to pursue a master's degree, not in writing. And I'll touch on that too, where I'd say this guy is here to talk about writing when he's talking about other things. But my formal education all my life has been in business and marketing. And writing has been what's kept the soul going, I'd say, where I've had to lean on other pursuits to keep the life going, the other practical aspects of life going, if you will. My writing is all about, especially since I relocated back to Texas over a decade ago, it's been about exploring themes of place, identity, and belonging. Really looking at my roots as somebody from Pakistan, my family from Pakistan, like cherishing what I've left behind. And then also exploring my place in my new surroundings, my new environments, and how I find community. So it's always been about trying to find a semblance of home wherever I'm at. And that's me in a nutshell. I believe writing as a journey began early for me.
Right.
Exploring on my own.
Do you have so like for myself, this is not a podcast about me, by the way, but just using me as
Yeah.
an example, like for me, like a pivotal moment I remember was when I was a kid, and I wrote this short story about these African animals on the safari fighting against these hunters who were trying to, kill them. And then the rhinoceros used his horn, the elephants used the trunk. Anyways, it was cute and funny, I guess. I took it very seriously, and
Yeah.
that's a story that I still remember to this day. Like, I wrote
Yeah.
it when I was 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have something like that? That like what was you know?
Embarrassingly, yes, yes. I think I was 8, and we had a class assignment to write something,
Mhm.
and I wrote a story about this legendary warrior named Nadir, and
It's you.
yeah,
All right, all
who
right.
went
Just
on a quest, who went on a quest to slay a dragon, and I made a little doodle of myself hurling a sword at a dragon.
oh my
So
gosh. All right.
that was the story. And I was like 8. That's what I remember. I wish I
Mhm.
had kept that piece of paper. It's lost to time, but I still remember that page and that little drawing I made in like color pencil. Uh,
You say you still have it?
I wish I still had it.
Oh,
It's
okay. Yeah,
lost
yeah.
to
Same
time.
here.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to my story.
Yeah.
I just
But I
remember.
don't know what that says about me as a person, just putting myself there as a hero conquering a dragon.
I mean, it
About
shows that you're the
8-year-old
main
me.
character of your story, right? So, like, I'm not saying you have an inflated view of yourself, but maybe that is who you are metaphorically. So, who's to say?
I I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe 8-year-old me had it. Yeah.
When did you? So you write really beautiful poetry, at least in my view, and we can share that in a little bit. But like, when did you start doing that? And what was like, because that's very different from prose. So what inspired you there?
Absolutely. I think my interest in calling has always been towards fiction and prose. Um, After leaving my life in Pakistan behind, I went into a period of depression,
Hmm.
and that was really tough to talk about a few years ago. But I think that put me in a place of writer's block where it was very difficult to come to the page and write structured fiction. And it forced me in a place where I was writing from a place of scarcity, of time, of mental space, and words. And that, um, you know, uh, took form in like in poetry. And I never saw myself or perceived myself as a poet, but I started to just write poetry because it was too difficult and too hard to write prose. And that journey on poetry took a form of its own, where I think a lot of people enjoy reading what I write in poems. And um,
Hmm.
I also find joy in going to open mics and cafes and bars and reading my poetry out loud. So it's really helped me come to terms with my own journey of scarcity and depression and helping me come out of it. And they have also been themes I've explored in my writing around depression. So that's been a personal journey. But that's where the poetry came from. It came as something that was um, coming to terms with my own limitations and trying to build a foundation to grow out of it, and using poetry as a means to fuel myself forward in a troubling time in my life. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that when you were in an emotionally troubled time, you could not write prose. Um,
Yeah.
so that
It's
that
blocking.
is,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I, that that is, yeah. I'm trying to
I,
relate as well. So
I,
I think, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, writer's block is something if you are a creative and a writer, like
Mhm.
the broader term is creative block, and it's everybody experiences that, and I think it's helpful to talk about it. For me, writer's block manifested where I I think your approach to art and to writing in general stems from a sense of who you are as a person. and what you bring to the
Great.
page naturally, and trying to see yourself in the pages or in your art, or trying to bring that perception of yourself into the world,
Mhm.
because it can be really personal. My writing is very personal. And I think when I was trying to build my life as a new immigrant in America, a lot of that fraught time for me was trying to reconcile my identity on what it meant to not have my home, my family, my friends, all of that around me anymore. And then trying to find new community, new people, finding myself in a place that was very new to me. And that kind of just shook me in a sense, like to my core, where I'm like, my prose, I cannot write prose that is true to who I am and what I want to say. And that contributed to the sense of blockage or constriction, I would say, where nothing came to the page. And so it was trying to explore those themes and trying to find like what I could do, etc. So there was that sense of blockage, of creative energy on the page, obviously. But then also there was more practical stuff, such as time, definitely. When I was trying to find my place here, I think before I had a practice in prose where I would wake up early in the morning and try to write an hour each day. That
Mhm.
habit went out the window in a new
Yeah,
environment where I was working odd jobs. I was where the schedule varied week by week.
I remember you during that time. I mean, you told me later how you were feeling at that moment when you and I were interacting. I thought you were doing well.
Well, I'm
But
glad it came across that way.
yeah,
Um,
you
yeah,
probably writing probably helped you a lot, right? With that, with
for
regulating.
about 2 years after I moved to US, I had to let go of writing. Where
Mm,
again, I think one of the things is how do you approach your art? And for the first half of my life, I approached it from a place of fear. I
okay.
thought that writing was gave me a true sense of who I am, and if I didn't write, I would lose myself.
Yeah.
And the true realities of establishing my life again meant that I could not find the time to write, could not find a
Hmm.
reason here to write because I couldn't grasp my own identity. And that meant for me that I was losing myself, and hence I was losing my writing, and that fueled the fear that, oh, I need to write more. And that just pressured me more and more without forcing any words out. It was just trying to squeeze a sauce like a mustard or ketchup bottle and trying to squeeze out stuff
Right.
that's not there. And I had to just learn to set aside my writing for about a period of 2 years where like don't force yourself on the page if nothing's coming naturally, and just try to reset yourself, reorient yourself in a new environment, a new setting, and try to come fresh onto the page. One of the books that's really helped me over the past few years is called Art and Fear. They I'm forgetting the names of the writers. There are two co-authors, and look it up. But it was it's
Is it
around
by David Boyles and Ted Orland?
exactly
The
the
okay.
same one, where it
Yeah.
helped me really unpack my relationship with my art and with my emotions of fear. And I realized that the most sustain writing like is, and all art is an exploration of emotions. So fear is something you explore as well. But if you are fueling your art through fear, I think it's
Mhm.
coming from an unhealthy place where it's not easy to sustain your own living and your life as an artist. You will fall in some shape or form on your. And
Sorry.
the most
Right.
sustainable form of
So
writing comes
this is a
from,
book, right?
yes, it is.
Okay. Don't want to interrupt you, but for everyone out there, you can apparently find one of
Highly,
uh,
highly recommend.
yeah, this. Oh, never mind. I was like, you can find the whole book online for free, but that's not true.
No, you can't.
You cannot. All
No, you
right, never
can't.
mind. Continue. I'll share the link though.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but over time, like I realized that the most sustainable form of art and writing that you can practice day in day out comes from a place of curiosity and love in your life, and self-love, where that was what realization started to draw me out of my depression. And self-care, kind of those roots where, okay, like first I need to focus on my health and my care, establish a foundation there, and then build my art on top of it. And it wasn't clean. It's like a back and forth. You use your writing and your art to build that foundation, and then you have more stable days where you can come back to your writing, and it's like
Yeah.
they go in concert.
I mean
But
that makes sense how you're saying like if you're trying to write when you're not in when you're trying to create and you're not in a stable frame of mind, it can be
yeah,
extremely difficult.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
and you can create brilliant works that way. Don't get me wrong. There are so many countless examples of troubled artists
yeah,
out
well, I
there.
mean that seems to be a what do you call it a stereotype, right, of sorts. Like the
Yeah.
artist, the creative has to have serious mental problems, you know.
um, what I've realized with time is like it's possible to have design your life around
Mhm.
sustainably. I want to write or create art for the rest of my days and have it come from a healthy place, and that comes from a realization of what emotions or sense of identity your art is stemming from, because it stems from you. And having
Yeah.
that understanding about yourself really can give you that foundation to build your life in a sustainable, more forward looking way that can serve you and hopefully become fuel for other readers and people who
I want to
yeah.
talk about, if you're willing to share, like you're working on, you've been working on one of your masterpieces, right? Should I use that word?
No.
Maybe maybe I should. Okay, that's maybe that's a little too much. But what I'm trying to say is like you've been working on a piece of work, a book for a number of years now, and it's very personal to you, right? Um, is that I guess like how did that if you want to talk about it, like how did that
Yeah.
originate?
Yeah. I don't want to go into too much details. Like you said, it's personal, and I'm also not trying to call it a book right now, but it is a story,
Mhm.
and it's from my time in Pakistan. Um, but that story is from just a lot of road trips and journeys I took as part of work in the country,
Mhm.
where I grew up in a very urban, well off, middle class place of privilege where a lot of communities in Pakistan are not that, excuse me, not that well off. And I think removing myself from my day to day and immersing myself into others' lives and exploring that part and journey kind of helped me um, just look at what I could bring to the page about writing that. And I think that is something I was trying to write when I started to build my life in America as well. And what made it hard is because I left all of that life behind, left Pakistan behind, left my relationships behind. So that made it difficult for me to come to the page to try to write it. So I had to let that go for a bit.
Mhm.
But like I said, it's very personal. So it comes from a place of how you think about yourself and your roots and your identity, and your home and those ideas, and how do you bring those to the page. And it's kind of very intertwined there. And I do, and again, there's, I about 10, 12 years ago, I was rushing to finish it. But I feel like because it is such also an exploration of my own self, I haven't
You
uh,
can't really rush your work like that though to do
it's like
something.
personal. It's not tied to commercial success, but it is like a sense of completion
Mhm.
or coming to terms with myself. So it's like, okay, how do I continue to work on it? And I'm very introspective as a person. I journal a
Yeah.
lot. So it's also around how do I continue to mine away, chip away at that work and coming to terms with myself and what I left behind in a sense, and continue to bring that to fruition. So I would feel more comfortable talking about it if it's in a stage where it's more ready to share. So
Yeah, no,
not right now,
absolutely.
but that's all I can speak about
I,
right now.
I'm not going to try to force you to,
Yeah.
talk about something which, you're not ready to share at the moment, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about something you are clearly willing to share, which I'm sure the audience would be very interested in. Is you recently went on a writers retreat to the Sahara Desert. What instigated that, and what was that
Yeah.
like? So,
Yeah. Um, I've been fortunate enough over the past 4 or 5 years to have the bandwidth, the room to further experiment and write and engage with authors, other emerging artists, and go on just book talks and all of those things. And one of the things that always like fascinated me and I wanted to explore was removing myself from my daily activities and chores and finding a quiet place to write, just like Bilbo did, going to Rivendell to write and finish his book.
I mean, absolutely, we all daydream or
Right, but
about going to a place like that. So,
it's it's not practical, and I thought I was beyond that point in my life from, let's say, my early 20s, fresh out of college, where I could find that time to go and do that. For better or for worse, I got laid off late last year, and I thought I have always wanted to find more space and time to write. Yes, you don't have a job, you don't have a paycheck,
well,
but you've got the gift of time.
right.
And that made me start applying to artist residencies as I was applying to jobs. Um, what happened was that I did not get any job interviews in that first month, but I applied to this artist residency in the Sahara Desert, and they got back to me after my application. They said, "You can come." And the timing just felt right. It was in
So,
December,
so,
holidays. Yeah.
so you were applying for jobs, and you were also applying for writers retreats. And the first one you got was a writers retreat from the Sahara Desert. I mean,
Yes,
pretty
yes, yes.
incredible.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So I was surprised because,
mhm.
like I said, I've always had this imposter syndrome of not perceiving myself as an artist because I have built my career in business and marketing, and that's the professionals I surround myself most with day to day. And the artist things I've had to go out of my comfort zone and try to push and build that on my own. So I never thought I would be good enough to be accepted into an artist residency. And that's like, I don't know how many of your listeners or viewers would relate to that, but I've struggled with that thing. Like, do I call myself a writer or not? But that was a good point of validation for me that what I put in my application, the sample of writing, why I wanted to go there, all of that resonated and was good enough to be invited to come as like a cohort of other 5 to 6 artists to be part of the Sahara retreat. So I this was in December 2025. I went to Morocco, flew into Marrakesh, and it was a 12 to 13 hour bus ride into the remote Sahara on the Algerian border. Um, I stayed in a tiny hamlet. It was about 20 to 25 dwellings in total. They had one school, one
Wow.
duck shop, like a little shop where you got ask the guy behind the counter to give you any snacks, etc. And they had one mosque, and that was it. And there was a bed and breakfast.
How many people lived in that? I presume it's a village, right? So,
It's a village, yeah, and I'm calling it a hamlet because it felt really smaller than a village, really.
okay.
Like 20 25 buildings in
How
total, like
how did
one.
like so this is in the this from Marrakesh it took a bus ride of 12 hours, you said, right?
Yeah, 12 to 13 hours. Yeah,
12 to
somewhere
13 hours.
away.
So this is fairly remote. What do they do there? Do they? I mean, and
So
what? Yeah, what does it look like even?
the communities there, um, the people are Amazi, is
Mhm.
how, like, the term is Amazi, which also translates to the free people or the nomads. The Arabic word for those communities is Berbers, the Berber people. And they are traditionally nomadic peoples who reside in the Sahara from Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, that region. Those are the Berber nomadic Amazigh tribes. They have their own language, they have their own native alphabet, they have a fascinating culture. Um, and traditionally, that nomadism has been more like finding roots in a stationary place as borders have become more well defined, as life has become more modernized. That village where I was staying at is not that old. Um, it's become harder for people to find
I
their
just want
farms
to play
and
this
land.
visual that you clearly put up.
I did, yeah. So these are the visuals
We,
from.
if you're describing a beautiful scenery like this or the desert, we got to put up a video.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the Sahara, and these are giant sand dunes. If you can see like people in the background, these are
It's
huge sand
beautiful.
dunes, like uh, mountains. Would describe
Yeah,
when you hike up them.
and you actually climbed up these sand dunes, right? You told me
I
you did.
did.
Yeah.
So these communities now, they do make a living partly by harvesting date palms from nearby oases and also tourism. They've got a very good developed network of roads that leads into that region. And there are tours that go, there are luxury camping sites not
That
far from
looks
that village, maybe about
so
an hour's walk.
surreal. I can't
People
even
camp overnight to
like being
check out the
there
view.
must have felt like you're in a different world.
I was on another planet, man. I was.
Oh my God.
It was spellbinding. It was. I. Um, it was so far removed from the day-to-day life that I live on, like an urbanized West Coast city, to be
Yeah.
like that remote in a desert, just in a tiny village, so far from everywhere. I was fortunate to have power. They had solar power now, so I had power. There was warm water for some part of the day, and there was no heating. In December, it got really cold, and in the summers, it gets really hot. So part of going to the residency was like you live with the Berbers as the Berbers live,
Is it
and you
was this
kind
one
of.
of the towns?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, just going back to this. Like this is a
This is
town.
this is a snapshot from Marrakesh just before like I
Oh,
set
okay,
off.
okay. I was thinking this
So
town looks much too big for the hamlet.
this is the old markets of Marrakesh. Then the bus ride. It went through the Atlas Mountains. You cross
Yeah.
the mountain range to get into the Sahara, and then the landscape starts changing. You drive for most of the day through oasis towns. The highway is connected to oases, and then the highway disappears as well. And then you're just going on a 4x4 and just arid tundra, just driving to this village, pretty much. And you
Wow.
saw the fossils. So the ground is littered with
Let
fossils.
me go back to the fossils. Let me see.
Yes,
Yeah, in this because the Sahara used to be like a under the ocean, right? So
the
yeah,
Sahara was a seabed in
yeah,
Cretaceous Jurassic time period.
absolutely.
Or
That would make a lot
don't
of
quote
sense.
me on the geologic history. I might be
I
wrong.
mean,
It was more
I
than
know you were
years
not
ago.
there for geology purposes.
But a lot of
So,
geologists go there. It's a geologist's dream. Just like you're walking
right.
and you just like see, oh, it's a fossilized seashell or a geode. And there are villagers who harvest these and kind of sell them into the city. So that's how they make a living. They make a living by harvesting date palms, and that's seasonal. And then part of the year is with tourism. So it's a multitude of trades that it kind of established with, where previously it was more nomadic. They would cross um, borders, have livestock. There's still have livestock, but I think with climate change, there's definitely the weather has
Right.
become harsher. They've had to settle down, and then a lot of the water comes through these. They have a well. They use the well in the village, but then they do get a lot of water from a nearby town that comes in like once a week to get like their supply of water. So they are trying to lean a bit more into comforts of logistics and transportation, the highway network that now connects them, and how they can, and then
Were you on the
like
camel
trying to
there?
lean into the tourist.
You,
Sorry,
you're definitely on camel, right? That particular one.
I I had two very memorable excursions as part of the creative retreat. So one of them was going on a picnic into the oasis on Camelback in the afternoon, and it was three of us, three of the artists. We opted and we loved to go on Camelback. The
Right,
guy who
right.
took us was a pretty young guy in his 20s. He spoke good English. He had like played drums and also did like other tourism related things. So he took us out into the desert in the oasis, and we had a picnic there, watched the sunset. They played music for us. We had dinner, and then we came back on Camelback in pitch black night into the village,
This is a. I know
where
we've been playing this on
all,
loop,
this
but
is the
this
snapshot. I
framing,
couldn't.
right?
Yes. So you see the guy. He just has
Okay,
this
good.
lantern that illuminates just like 20 feet in front of him, and it's pitch black around you. But like above, like the sky was just blazing bright with
You
stars,
couldn't
Milky
see
Way.
this, right? Because the sky is. I mean, you obviously couldn't
I
capture it in the video.
I could
Yeah.
not capture it on my phone at all, and I'm just like on the camel. The camel was just going, and I was just like for 30 to 40 minutes, I was just looking up, just looking at the Milky Way, where I had never seen the Milky Way before in my life. And it was visible every night. And it was just such an otherworldly experience to be on a camel in the Sahara Desert in pitch black night and just looking up at the Milky Way and shooting stars around you. And then I asked the guy, like, how do you know where you're going? Because I wanted to hear, no, I know that the nomads have like very ancient knowledge of the stars and constellations that they used to navigate. So this guy's pretty young. He said, like, my grandfather knew the full map of the sky by heart and he could travel, but he said, I didn't know it as well. I do know that this star is above the village that we're trying to get to, so I know a few of them. And then
Right,
he
right.
knows with like where the moon is coming because at like 8:30 p.m. in the evening, the moon was not out yet, but you could tell like there was a silver tinge on the horizon where like the moon is going to come out that way. And then you could see the lights of two towns, one in Algeria, one in Morocco, which kind of gave him an orientation of where he was.
So,
And he
so
said
he
like this is what I
used,
used to like find my path
that's
along the ground.
interesting. He used the stars above, and he also
Yeah.
used the terrestrial landmarks of the land.
Wayfinding. Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. I
And
mean,
that was
navigation,
inspiration
right? So,
for me, where I think I was struggling after a layoff to just like how am I gonna find the next phase in my life and find stability. And
mhm.
you have like people so far removed from our daily connected tech heavy lives still living in remoteness and trying to find their way out in the desert with just stars in the sky, and you can't see in front of you but they know where they're going. It's like
Yeah,
it's okay.
it's a good
It's okay.
metaphor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
because like so yeah, because I was thinking like these people, you don't. There is a, at least for me, there's an over depend. I feel like there's an over dependence on this modern societal construct for to provide like how should I put it, like a path forward, right? Like in a sense, like whereas these people, they're surrounded, they're still living in nature.
yes,
So yeah, so
yeah,
for them everything is very tangible and real, and they're not necessarily. I don't know. There seems to be less confusion in a way of where life should go, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like
And
okay, I need to head over there. That's where I'm going. and this is
and
my life, and this is how it is.
right. Um, the simplicity was very humbling. In the village, there was this gravel field leveled out where kids were playing soccer barefoot.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm like, I can't play football
Oh my
barefoot
god, you're
in
gonna
sport heat.
destroy your feet.
Um, and the kids were like there, just having the time of their lives, just playing barefoot in the Sahara. And I mean, we don't have enough time to talk about it. I feel like I can speak about my Sahara experience for hours.
What is the town called, by the way?
So, Tissermeen, T
Where
I
the
Tisserdmine, Tissermeen,
okay? Let me T-I what
S
S
S
F.
E R D I
Uh-huh.
Dmine,
I
Tissermeen.
found it.
Yeah,
Tesserdmine.
Tissermeen. Yeah,
Okay,
French
I'm
word.
probably
Yeah,
saying
I
it
believe,
completely
or
wrong.
Amazi word. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Um, oh wow, this is yeah. It's funny on the maps right here. Not that. Okay, am I even sharing? I'm not sharing right now.
That's okay.
But
But
okay,
then
regardless.
the second excursion I took as part of the retreat was going out to the dunes. So the dunes, I could see them from the bed and breakfast like window. They were like a 10-minute drive away. So the desert is not one landscape. It is like arid ground, it's plateaus, it's sand, and then like
It's right
about
there.
on the horizon you could see like these towering mountains, and it's like those aren't mountains, that's just mounds of sand. And as you like showed in that video, like I went there with several other artists, and one of our guides who was like a very kind guy, he took us out there and like we can hike up there and see the sunset. And climbing those dunes is very hard on foot. Like you put one step forward and it goes in the sand, so it's like two steps forward, one step back. I took my shoes off and then just climbed in my socks because the toes help you grip the sand. The sand is fine like silk, very rich golden sand. And once you're up there, Shen, it's
Mhm.
you are in the horizon. You're not looking out on the horizon. You're like literally lost in, because you can see the scale. It's just you, and it's just sand and just stretches on for miles, and you like this goes on forever. And that gives you a sense of scale where, sure, like with the sea, and I'm leaning
Yeah,
forward,
like that stretches
but
on forever. That looks
with
like
with
it's like an endless sea,
yeah, with
right?
the
Like it
and
goes
do you
all the way to the
see like
horizon.
that little speck out in the top right corner? That's like a little
Yeah.
tower or something in the
Right.
sand. But you can't really build like human settlements on this because they'll just sink and disappear
Right.
to the
I,
sand.
I was asking you about like, hey, this kind of reminds me of what was it like build a ski lift, right? And
Mhm.
just go up and then sled down or
And
sandboard
I
down.
mean, I think in like Dubai and like in the Arabian Peninsula, there are these tourist experiences where people do. There are tourist experiences there too. Like you can ride a ATV and stuff out there, but um, with skiing, like you can't build a ski lift to come down here. You have to hike up
Like
there on your own.
you holding the sand and showing how fine it is. That's
Yeah, this was
something really
just.
poetic about that. So definitely,
I don't know,
like
but
no, it's just like how
for me in my
it's
head,
like
like I
it's
was
like
comparing this to like looking out on the sea while on a boat or on the beach, and it's still like
right.
you are not in the waves or not on the horizon. With this, you are like literally walking in the horizon. It's like you're lost to time, really. And that was just like it just like really put me in another frame of mind. It was like
Shall
highly
we
recommend going out there.
shall
Yeah.
we shall we talk
But
about this poem you wrote? You wrote it while you were there, right?
I wrote it right after I came back, but this was like all the notes. I'm happy to read it. Should I read this poem? I think that might be better
Please,
than
please read it. You're the
having.
writer. The writer needs to read it, not me.
So I have not read this poem out loud before. Usually, I like to read my poems and open mics, so this is the first time reading this one out loud. So hold on. So this heart is learning how to whittle its weight, embrace the rounded lightness of a sand grain, float upon centuries old whispers traded in the winding Marrakesh markets, about a land beyond the towering Atlas Range, past high clouds and snowy mountain passes, where time starts breaking. All that is unwanted is pulled toward that great continuity. The Sahara is one unending, sonorous note. It soars toward a peak, a crescendo that, in never coming, continues to take you further, higher, transcendent. I see the Earth's history carved in the fossils at my feet. Birdsong punctuates the piercing sun and wind parched lips. Life thrives in hard won corners. Stillness in the desert requires surrendering to the windstroke as it shapes undulating dunes. It enrobes you in silken foam until you realize that this unyielding infinity of senses is all there is. A lift, a glimpse, a stripping of whales, of urban and earthen cloth. The dunes are golden, then orange, like the cinnamon dusted tangerine slices after dinner. A hint of sweet tartness on the air. I see the story of the Berbers in their sun sculpted faces, carrying soft smiles, as they take you by camel out into starlit oases and follow the Milky Way back to the village. Behind shooting stars, I see the beginning, the universe laid bare. Silver crested dunes dance behind closed eyelids. Sleep is entrancing wakefulness that takes your feet into an endless expanse where you meld into the horizon, past the mirages, past sunrise, the eyes open outside the hourglass. This heart is a sand grain learning your name, left in the dunes, claimed by the desert. Thank you.
Oh, oh my gosh, that was so heart fulfilling. Just
Thank you.
reading
Yeah.
that and hearing you read it. Yeah, wow. I I'm only grasping a tiny portion of what you must have what you must have felt when you wrote this. So
And I feel like there is still so much for me that I am unpacking about 6 months later, where I have so much more rich material to write about and
mhm.
inspiration to use as writing. So I will be writing more about the desert, hopefully, is the
It
plan. Because like
was like before you went, I think you told me you thought the desert would be a dry, boring, lifeless place. And
yeah, I
in
thought it would be
reality, yeah,
not
go ahead.
boring, but I thought it would be barren.
Barren.
Um,
Okay, that's a
and
better word.
I feel I've been spoiled. I live in Seattle, where it's I'm surrounded like in 10 minutes you can get to a body of water, in 25-30 minutes you can get to hills and mountains. And I wanted to be in a landscape which was like different and remove myself from that. And like I have this, and I feel like maybe many of your viewers, listeners might also relate to it. Like I love to daydream and look out the window. I, I felt the Sahara would be the perfect place for me to take long, aimless walks, surrounded by nothing and be distracted by nothing. And I thought the desert would be
Ah,
a
so,
barren
so
place.
you were actually looking for a barren landscape, but what you
I was
found is
looking for a place without distractions,
got it. All
where
right.
a lot of like residencies were in urban settings, like going to a city, Venice, etc., where like you could also surround yourself with the canals. And I'm like, I would just be exploring cafes and just sitting by the canal all day and not
Mhm.
be writing. And I need something not to distract myself with. So I thought the desert would be similar, like would be different. It would be a barren, empty place. I would be in the middle of nowhere with nothing to do, and I could just focus on my writing. What I did find, however, was just a different kind of richness and a life permeating and history permeating through every sand grain and corner. The landscape itself took many different shapes and forms. There was a black desert and gravel and plateaus and mountainous sand dunes and fossils. There was the history of the people, the villagers out there, the Berbers, their rich language, their um, ownership of their language in the face of struggle because they're nomadic. That land has known many conquests and they've kind of
You know
resisted.
what?
There's all of that.
Right.
Um, and
So, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
life was just sprouting through. There were like so many birds. There was bird life, like so many birds. There were melons and wildflowers sprouting through sand and odd corners, and there were like all these nocturnal animals, like those jumping mice that you might have seen on the Sahara on National
Right.
Geographic.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um,
You witnessed
there
it.
were scorpions. I'm glad I did not see any scorpions, but they told us like zip up your bags. If you're getting something out, don't leave them open because scorpions like to hide in dark, cool places. I'm glad
Yeah.
I did not see any scorpions, but there was all this wildlife and flora and fauna in the desert. It's not barren. There is life, and the perspective that it gave me was, I mean, after the layoff and after like I was reflecting on my life, like before going there actually, that what is the struggle of life worth? And this is before, like months before I went to the Sahara, I was just like journaling, and I felt like all of the struggle kind of gets you maybe like to an oasis, like 100 miles of desert only for a 100-meter oasis. Is it worth it? That's like, but like coming out of this retreat, I felt like life is like the desert. There is scarcity around you, but life thrives anyway. People thrive despite adversity. And the oasis is a sweet space of abundance and fruit that you get rewarded with from time to time. You make the most of it, but then you move on because the oases are also not forever. They change, life changes, they get claimed by the desert, and new oases sprout elsewhere.
See,
So that's the
that's
perspective
poetry
that
right there. I can see the beginnings of another poem here. What you just
hopefully,
stated.
yeah,
But yeah, that's a good analogy. In the sense that, like in the desert, these oases are places of refuge, but they're not permanent. You always have to move on to the
yeah,
next. And then the journey in between, there's
yeah.
it may be, yeah,
So,
there may be hundreds of like between each oasis, there could be quite the distance, right? So you're
so
just journeying through.
like
So
your
maybe that is,
job, your relationships,
yeah,
your phases in life. I felt
exactly.
like
Like,
yeah, nothing is permanent, and then everything around it is not barren. It adds to the richness and fruitfulness of life if you know how to look at it, where to look at it,
even when
and
you're journeying
relation.
through and you're not in an oasis, you're still like what you said, like the desert itself is not barren. I might think like, oh, these things are happening and these are not good or whatever it may be, but really everything is adding like there's fruitfulness to
To
that as
you,
well.
yeah, they're
Exactly.
adding to you as a person. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Definitely.
Um,
So that, I mean, we can talk about the desert and Sahara and your retreat endlessly. I'm sure you can discuss another hour about this. But recently, I think you told me you got accepted into another writer's retreat. What is that about?
it's not a writer's retreat. It was,
Okay.
and I applied to this program like around the same time, actually.
Mhm.
So the Seattle Public Library has a program called the Writers Room, where the Seattle Central Library in downtown is a beautiful architectural marvel. Um, and they have this program where they host writers in residence for a year. And
Mhm.
I got accepted into that program for the calendar year 2026-27 to be part of the writers' room. So they give you access to a workspace along with several other writers that you can access whenever the library is open. You can have access to your desk, and the library's rich archive of historical, um, archives and resources and librarians and um, yeah, all of that good stuff, along with the space and Wi-Fi. So it's a dedicated space for me to write that I have access to for a year, and
Okay.
pretty selective about it. So I was glad and I was surprised that okay,
So
this was another
it,
application.
it, you're
So
In other words,
Yeah.
what would you be doing there? Just so they provide you these resources. You're going to be there and working. You're going to be writing, right?
I
Like
would be writing.
do they have various programs to? I don't know. They invite other people to give talks, or I don't
Oh,
know. I don't know
the
anything about
the
it.
Seattle Public Library has a lot of programs, and actually, it hosts
Let me see this.
amazing. So,
I think this
if
is
you
it,
don't
right?
know, the
Yeah.
city of Seattle is one of two U.S. cities to be designated a UNESCO City of Literature. There are UNESCO cities of literature around the world, and in the United States, there are two cities. One is Seattle. One is I don't know the other city. I think Iowa, definitely. But Seattle has a rich literary legacy, and they host like so many different writers. Yeah, all the current residents you can see possibly down there, and possibly
I
find
wonder
few
if
too.
they.
But
Oh, these are the
but
current business. Your name is going to be here soon.
it's in alphabetical order. You'll have to scroll down, but you don't need to go that far, man. But
Like,
they have a lot of different programs where they have book launches, they have youth writing programs, they celebrate marginalized groups like Black History Month, International Women's Day, all of that with relation to writing and reading. And I'm like very
there you
fortunate to be
are.
part of this. Oh, there
Oh
I
my
am.
god.
Yeah. My image is cropped out for some reason. Yeah, but yeah, I had to give a proposal on what I would be working on. So that's that very personal
Oh,
project that I.
that's a very personal project. The autobio fiction memoir. Yeah.
I will see how that goes, but I think it's helpful for me to have like a dedicated space for it to focus on.
These people are they are very diverse and
Yeah, yeah,
different.
yeah,
I mean, every single one of them. What is
yeah,
this?
yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
they have great
That's
resources and a
wonderful.
great community, and I'm looking
Congratulations
forward to
that you got
support.
accepted into this.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
definitely. So
and
are you going back to Seattle then soon for this?
it's a big question. Like I said, I am still, uh, figuratively speaking, I am still in the desert looking for my oasis. I do not have um, a job lined up, something that would pay my bills, and
Right.
I
I
have like.
actually um I have a follow up question to that, and I know you can answer this next question very well. Um,
Yeah.
which is like, so you started out this interview by saying like, "Hey, I don't have an educational background in literature. Like I didn't go to college for that. This is not what I did for work."
Hmm.
So a question I have for you is like, how do you how does writing and how do you balance that with your what you consider a stable sort of life by a I don't know if I should call it a traditional career, but something that sustains you. Like, do you ever feel like you could do writing full time, or like is a financial sustainment from that like never your actual goal? Like to you, what is it really writing to you? Like how does
I
that
think the dream has been like write and travel full time is like would be an amazing lifestyle to have. Um, I'm just I don't think there's any downside to having like writing full time and having it be the source of income. That would be ideal. I think like the vast majority of published authors today do not create like a sustainable income from it. It's become really hard.
right?
And the other creative aspect of it is I do not want my reliance on a paycheck to force me to write, where I would sacrifice on my creative vision and my art. And um, what if it forces me back into this mindset of fear, where
Right.
I am writing out of fear that, oh no, if I do not write and publish this, I will not have food on my table. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier around like depression and writing from a place of fear, where that is not sustainable, and that
Right.
leads you into an unhealthy place of writing. So building a sustainable writing practice is the goal. And at present, the way I figured out how to do it is continue to lean on the skill sets I've built on business and product management, all of that. That continue to lean into that, do the work that I know I can do, and have that build like on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're familiar, like it's like
Yes.
you have like physiological needs on food, safety, all of that, and then you build on that pyramid of self-actualization on your art with that writing. So
So
right now,
self-actualization is so writing. You're saying it fulfills the self-actualization one, which is on the very top. You do
100%.
not where you do not want writing to be is to fulfill your basic food and shelter. You don't
Yes.
want writing to be the source that fulfills the bottom layer of that Maslow's hierarchy. You want it to be
Because
in the top.
yeah, because
I
I feel I would be lying to myself as a writer if I am like, oh, this editor wants these edits and you need to get this published by XYZ date, and you're doing it for all the clicks and likes, and you're no longer being true to yourself as a person. You're doing it for external means of validation, and
it,
that sacrifices who you can be as a person because you're trying to get XYZ.
but wouldn't
So
you say like
I would want that. I would
right,
want that,
right.
but I would want to do it on my own terms,
Yeah.
where I'm not dependent on it. And I think like having that stability of finances, food, shelter, all of that from a separate bucket helps me not sacrifice my values and my vision. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. That's it's interesting you put it this way. I've actually never thought of it as how writing could be like in what aspect does it fulfill in the Maslow's hierarchy, and the fact that you do not want it to be, you know, your foundational basis of your basic human survival needs, but rather the very top tier. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, like you were saying, like of course, you know, it's not like you do want people to read your works and have some kind of impact in the world through your writings. So even if it's not like a means of financial survival, it's a means of like getting something out there which has like am I saying this correctly as well? Like there's a self-actualization part where it fulfills you,
Hmm.
but I feel like for me, for instance, as I mean, I would call myself a writer as well. Like part of my writing is personal, but another part of it, and it may be the same writings, is also meant to have an effect on other people. Like I wanted to have at least resonate with some people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. I know writing can be very personal to people. People journal, and I know many people who don't share their writings.
exactly.
I share my writing because I feel the purpose of life is to really, life flows from you outward. And for you to grow, you need to have like a relationship with the outside world to help inform your growth. So it becomes a sort of mirror. Writing is my mirror, and how it's perceived can help you grow as well, which is the selfish way of looking at it. But also
Why do you say that's selfish?
because you are serving yourself, right? You are saying that I will put my writing out there because if somebody reads it, I get feedback, I get validation, and oh, I can improve it further. So it is self-serving, so selfish,
Okay,
just
that's
in
yeah.
that frame of mind.
I see.
Um, but the other aspect of it is also uh, your
Well,
art is clarity on your own thoughts and emotions,
mhm.
and that gives other people a mirror so often to see themselves in it. And not, I mean, I don't say that I will be the person who will provide your mirror and you can look at it yourself. No, that's not the reason. But so oftentimes it's like you off like as a person you do have, and I've learned to value this about myself. You do have a point of view, a perspective. Everybody has a point of view and perspective when um, communicated well, communicated correctly, can
Mhm.
become a source of reflection or a seed of conversation for a broader conversation with other people. And having that broader conversation is something I think we all should strive for. And that is the purpose of art in general,
That's
is to
a good way
have
to
like
put it, Exactly.
art does not live in isolation. It serves a broader conversation with who you are as a person and the people you surround yourself with, and then
Mhm.
how are you interacting with your community, with your people, and the broader society around you.
Yeah.
And it may be nothing, but it may be, you know, can shape
Well,
something. And I think the
I mean,
goal is to
I'm
have
not
that
gonna say
conversation.
it's
Yeah.
nothing. Like, yeah, I feel like I mean different writings affect different people. I mean that's just natural. So like once you like that poem that you just read, right? Like
Mm,
I resonate with it, but maybe some people don't, and that's
yeah.
just you can't affect everyone. That's just not how it works, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but like if you kept that all to yourself, then I almost you're like yeah, you're right. Like it's it requires this level of interaction with people and getting these reflective feedbacks. I
Yeah.
feel like, and then
Yeah. If you keep it to yourself, which is I feel might contribute to your sense of tunnel vision or living in your own bubble. And that's not healthy on its own as well, where I think we are increasingly in algorithmic bubbles every day of our lives.
Mhm.
So I think putting yourself out there is one, like, forces you into a state of vulnerability as well, and gives you just a good reality check, and hopefully helps you engage in a conversation and helps you find community around you. I think I've built some good friendships over the past few years just by sharing my poetry and open mics, which was very uncomfortable to begin with. But as I grew comfortable, I met other people and writers and artists, and that's helped me find my people. And I think
You
it's
seem like
always
a
been
natural, though. Like,
and I'm glad it's coming across like that. But like I said, like it's something I've had to
it takes
work
practice. Yeah.
outside of my day to day to work on. It's been an added facet to my life that was not innate, or maybe if it was innate, I've had to find the space and capacity to cultivate it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, I feel like you've definitely attained a lot of what may seem to have been difficult in the beginning now
Mm.
seems natural. That's what I'm saying. I mean, so
Yes, yes,
um,
yes.
I did notice on the Seattle Writers Room website that the link to your website is broken. So I would recommend
It's all
people,
really fresh. Yeah, I
yeah,
will.
go
Coming
the
soon. Coming
coming
soon.
soon. But I mean, I would say in the meantime, I mean, you have a Substack, so that's where you can be. Is that
A
where
Substack
people can
and an
find your
Instagram
writings?
handle by the same name as Substack. That's where I am at. I would
Okay.
say in many ways, I appreciate you having me on this podcast. I feel like I have arrived early, which is a reframe from where I would not see myself on this podcast. Like if you had asked me a few years ago, right now I feel like I'm still working on things, but it's like good to have others see value in having me on and sharing my
Right.
perspective. So thank you for having me, but I think I'm still working. As you can see, like
I mean,
I don't have a
you,
lot more to show
you know, there's
for my
a
work or my.
there's a level of modesty you're
Okay.
you're exhibiting here because I mean, like, so this actually and I'm not going to keep this interview for too long, but I do want to make the point that like for myself at least in the past at some point
Mm,
I've felt like okay, like I can't call myself a writer because there's these real writers who's publish books and you can actually go to
mm,
like Barnes and Nobles or Amazon and buy them,
mm.
right? And like for me, how can I call myself that when I've only self-published, which really doesn't require much of any editors. I mean, I may have some editor friend look it over, but it's
Yeah.
not like a real publishing company, right?
Yeah.
So and so there's that kind of feeling where it's like if there's like a poll of like, are you actually a real writer? I'm like, okay, no. But at some point I realized like that is entirely a I don't know if the word delusion is right, but it's kind of a rubric that is made up in my head, right?
Mm,
So if a writer to me is someone who Well, naturally, as the name suggests, writes, and not just like writes once a like, but writes in a sense of like what you're saying, like a level of self actualization, like
Yeah,
actually something significant. Not so like if I write a research paper for work, that's not like a writer. I mean, that is kind of a writer, but not the writer I'm talking about. But if you're writing about like what you did, you know, you went to the Sahara Desert and you wrote about your like a very spiritual poem and also a very expansive talking about nature and history, like, and then obviously your own work, like that is very personal and very relevant.
yeah,
And I feel like it doesn't matter if you're not published in some
yeah,
famous journal or you have your books at, you know, the bookstores, like that's not the point.
yeah,
Because then that part is tied to like if your books are say you can find them at say Barnes and Nobles, then that means like, oh, you're like a established published
yeah,
author. Then that will probably become like you would then have writing as being part of your, you know, the bottom of your Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like if you're
yeah, yeah.
like
And
money.
I
So
think I am coming to terms with that. I think you're right. Like, if you want to call yourself an artist or a writer, I think what matters there is the verb, the action. Do you write?
exactly.
Doesn't
Do you
matter
write?
if you have something to show right up front, but do you practice that
Yeah.
day in, day out, or consistently? And I think if you do, you can call yourself
I,
by
I,
that term.
right. I think
Um,
that that would be my definition, and also like to me, it's like I would add on to that, like what is the true impetus for it, right? In
yeah,
that sense, like is it like most writers? I feel like most, if not all, like feel it very personally. Like it's something, you know, yeah. It's
yes,
if you're doing it because you know some company pays you to do it, or you have to do it for like a school report, that's not a writer. That's just you're doing
mm,
writing assignments.
interesting point. Yeah,
So
it's
that's
more
that's
intrinsic. Yeah, it's coming from an intrinsic.
intrinsic motivation to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that. Like nobody's telling me, oh, like nobody told you,
yeah.
hey, I got to go to the Sahara Desert and write. Like
and
nobody's going to
and
tell you
I
that.
think like something that helped me come over it was also one, like these external points of validation, which was being accepted into a residency and then the Seattle Libraries Writers Program. But also, like when I was in the residency in the Sahara, like I had like a good cohort of artists around me who were like,
Mhm.
I was the youngest person there. They were all established artists. I was the only writer, but there was a sculptor, there was a musician,
Mhm.
and like they encouraged me to think more in terms of the verb around. Do you're here, you're writing. It doesn't matter
Right,
if you got something out there yet, but you're doing the work. And if you are doing the work, I think you can describe yourself as somebody who writes or who is an artist. Um, and that's been the retraining muscle and something I've been trying to lean into. And I think the past several months have been also just an exploration of like reorienting my identity and how do I define myself going forward beyond like my last job and what's in the future, and then just leaning more into my art and writing and how does that take more center stage in my life.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah,
So, wow, I can't believe it's been a full hour. So, yeah. The
yeah.
other thing, you know,
Happy to
is
talk more. Yeah, we can talk about this
I'm
all
not
day.
saying I
Yeah,
want to like like have a 24-hour podcast here.
yeah.
But so we covered, I feel like, some major parts, you know, your part, you know, your life, your what you like writing about, your recent
Mm,
retreats, where you are in terms of your career path, and what writing means to you personally.
mm.
um so what it I guess at this moment, naturally you're in between oasis, right? If
Yes,
I'm use that, you know,
yes, yeah.
you're like on this journey.
Yeah.
Do you see your next oasis, or maybe there's several oases?
It might be a mirage what I'm seeing, Shen. We
Oh
don't
my
know.
God.
We don't know. I think it's definitely um, right now finding a stable path forward. It's definitely building towards a vision of
Mhm.
like how do I continue writing more sustainably, more day in day out, but also not leaving by the wayside like the foundation I've built and my professional life. And I haven't spoken about this, but briefly, um, I like human-centered design and design thinking has become a good point of inspiration to my life, where how companies um, invest in tools, problems, people by exploring, um, innovating around design problem, and that is creativity given form in an institutional setting. I'm product manager by trade, so I was at Starbucks for the past 5 years, and I worked on innovating and the strategy for their coffee equipment. And that
Mhm.
meant like how do you make lives easy for the baristas? So I looked at insights and ideas and thoughts and how do they solve certain problems, giving them form and then bringing them to market. Art, devoid of an institutional mandate, is the same. You have an idea, you have an insight about certain conflict, you explore it, you bring it to life, you revise it, you iterate on it, and bringing it to market, you publish it or you put it in a gallery, etc. It is, in a way, like creative in different form, but in collaboration with other people, with other teams, where impact is determined in a different set of rubrics and metrics. And it gives me a different way to think about my art and writing practice in a sense as well. So I believe I've started to build that foundation, and that has something to contribute to my writing life in the future as well. So I want to continue exploring that path as well, and I feel there
Well,
is a path in the desert where both of them kind of
right.
coexist at the same thing and lead
I
to
mean, like the physical analogy may break
more.
down this point because
Yeah.
really, in a sense, what you're saying, you could split yourself into two or multitudes of you.
No, 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 no.
No,
I
not
think
quite?
you can the North Star is the intrinsic motivation, which is to write,
Okay,
is to
okay.
pursue art. That is the
All
Maslow's
right.
hierarchy of need. That's
Let
the
me
North
throw away
Star in
my
the pyramid.
analogy.
That's the North Star. But I think you have to start with where you are. You cannot just fly up to the North Star. You have to traverse where you are, that landscape around you. And
Right.
for me, that is like where I am right now is
Is this related to, I mean, what you were saying about, say, you in the corporate world doing product management, is the the writing part also factors in there because that it
the
enhances what you do really, and maybe they
yes,
build off of each other as well.
exactly. That's what I was going to say. They build off of each other. Writing is such an solo act. It's I you practice that in isolation,
Hmm.
and forcing you to be bringing that same frame of thinking of creativity, of building an idea, bringing it to life, and having people experiment with it. There is an analogous parallel to your art and your writing. So the people in a corporate setting may value the creativity and the writing you build to define and bring clarity to a certain messy, ambiguous problem, and pursuing it with data and bringing it to life with a certain team and a group of people to see, hey, this person knows how to collaborate and bring this to life, and this can work in a certain setting. And then you can bring that same mindset. Okay, in a healthy mode of thinking, I know where I do my best work, where I did not do so well, and how can I use that to improve my artistic practice or my writing practice in that same way. So I feel on my journey forward that path on human-centered design and design thinking and creativity in an institutional setting still has a
Hmm.
lot to contribute to my writing practice. There's still a lot that it can do, where I am still in a very infant stage on my writing journey. So I need that corporate skill set that I've built over the past 10, 15 years to continue to fuel my writing practice and let that grow. And
You have such modesty here.
I
I would say you're much more than in the infant stage. You're,
Yeah.
you're
So I'm saying that relative to where I want to be. So
right.
big dreams, Shen. But definitely, I want that to feed into my writing practice and my artistic practice and inform it where I feel it has a part to play. And I feel like I can build a life where they both go in concert and they can both exist in tandem, at least for the short to medium term. And I will continue to explore a future path, which is not the next oasis, but a future oasis, maybe where who knows, I could write full time in another life and travel full time. But
Right. I mean,
that is a distant
that's
dream where I
your,
don't see a path going immediately, but
yeah.
maybe one day in the future.
I mean, see, this is where you're, what's the word? Like, uh, you have a rational, stable mind, which, where, because like there are people, there are very, I mean, this world has all sorts of people. There's people who don't necessarily care about stability, and like I've met them, like they would just go travel and do creative things and
So
be constantly broke, of
So
course.
I want to talk about that. I think
So,
this
like,
stable, this stable mindset, this rational mindset, is built off of a lot of learnings and failures. Like I said, when I moved to America, that was me. A few years after college, leaving everything behind, like traveling, building a new life, trying to pursue writing, and I failed. I realized that I do need I could not practice writing. So I could travel. I could live off, just um, paycheck to paycheck, trying to write and have something. But I
mhm,
feel like I would be doing injustice to my own potential and what I could do, and try to build off of that. Where instead of being at the whims of the universe and things out of my control, uh,
right, right.
and that's a huge part of who I am. Like I am not in control, and I think like. Uh, um, I practice a lot like Sufi philosophy, if you will, like surrendering to
Yeah, yeah.
the universe. So you do surrender in a sense to what's out there and like your own state of being, and then kind of try to build off of that. And what I learned in that earlier part of my life was, yeah, like just traveling endlessly, just traveling or just trying to write off of them without any stability in your life is not sustainable long term, or if it can be, it will be very subject to the whims of the universe and it will leave you exposed. And that's an angle on risk taking, which like my business minded sense does not agree with. Like you need a practical way to manage risk. But also a writer that I can reference is Pico Iyer, Pico, Pico, Iyer. He has a book called
Nice.
uh,
Nice.
The Art of Stillness. It's a very short book. You can read it in a couple of hours. He has a TED Talk by the same name. And
Mhm,
he grew up traveling around the world in his early life. Uh,
mhm.
he got mentored by the Dalai Lama. Um,
Wow. Okay.
his whole thesis is like travel only makes sense from a frame of stillness. So you can travel all you want, but if you want to make sense of it, you need to be in a frame of stillness and look at your travels in a frame of stillness. So the big question ultimately becomes, yes, I want to travel the world, I want to have all these experiences, but have you cultivated a space for yourself where you can be still and then make sense of it? Because if you don't make sense of it, you won't find meaning in your life. And ultimately, the purpose of life to finding fulfillment is finding that meaning. So, yes, you can do all of it. And I do want to travel, I do want to do all of it. It is framed in what that traveling, what that meandering and
Hmm.
exploration is serving, and
In
where
this
that's
age of constant movement and connectedness, perhaps staying in one place is a more exciting prospect and greater necessity than ever before. Yeah.
and you have to look at everything in tandem, in connection to one another, in that interconnectedness, and that's like I'm trying to build off of those early failures and experiences in my life where I tried to do that, realized it did not work, and then trying to you know build that off sustainably where I can still do all the traveling, etc. But it's still hard. Like, yeah, if your job only gives you 2 weeks a year to travel
Right, right.
X
I mean,
distance,
it's always like when you, not always, but frequently, right now you have ample time, so to speak, but
Yeah.
you don't have the financial stability. And then when you have the financial stability, you don't have it, you know, you only have limited time.
There's,
So
if I may, I would recommend Seattle as a place to live because you can just go take a ferry, go to an island, go to a mountain all in a day's time, and still be back in an urban setting if that's your jam. So,
yeah, yeah. So that's definitely something. Um, so I think overall, you have a solid plan. I mean, you may be in between oasis, but you definitely have a you're like navigating the with the Milky Way and the stars above you, like that guy, like the guide.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
you're trusting in I feel like you're trusting in something that is bigger than you, right?
yeah,
To guide you for sure.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
so wow, okay. I feel like we've talked quite a bit. Are
Yeah.
there and you've definitely not discerned, you've definitely dispensed a lot of good wisdom, I feel like.
Okay, I hope so. I don't know.
For me,
Yeah.
my perspective.
Okay.
From I know nobody has commented on this right now, but I've been getting some messages about like some people really liking what you're saying. So
Okay.
you know,
Thank
for
you.
people out there, I know I've like told some friends and acquaintances about this particular episode. You guys watching, please feel free to actually type a comment on YouTube. That way, it's like not just me receiving it, but like everyone can benefit as well. So yeah, and of course, as to your ego, of course, I'm kidding. There's actually comments.
We all have some ego. Yeah. I
So,
don't know.
I mean, imagine you like I mean you have a Substack, so I would that's the other thing, right? Like so I would hope there would be more subscribers as well. So
And I need to build that Substack. It's relatively fresh. There isn't much on there yet.
right,
But
right,
like I said, big dreams, Shen. Dream big.
absolutely.
Always.
Yeah. Um, okay, this sounds wonderful. Do you have any remaining words or other things? So
I
I
feel
know
like
that's a
this
very broad question. That was
it's a very broad question.
I
Yeah.
don't even know.
One thing that we did not just touch on is
Oh, actually, I actually did want to bring up one other thing before you bring this
okay.
up. So I definitely want to put a plug in for your you have a podcast as well, right?
It's
So for people who wants to know,
yeah, and it's relatively fresh. It's not a podcast. It's more of a book salon. It's like a
Mhm.
book club, if
Okay,
you will, but it's on LinkedIn, and it's for a different audience than this. But I feel there is a definite overlap, and that is exploring the role of technology and creativity in institutional settings, primarily business, whereas
my
AI
friend
is
Natalia says,
shaping.
enjoy the Sahara share.
Oh, thank
Yes, more
you.
of you. Feed Nadir's
Yeah.
ego, please.
So
Go on.
that book salon and newsletter is called The Maker's Dilemma. It's the name is inspired by the book The Innovator's Dilemma, and
I actually have the
yeah, it's really about innovation and how innovation thrives in institutional settings. And as somebody who has like a foot in the corporate world as well, I am more concerned about individual agency in the workplace where knowledge work is being disrupted by AI. So, will AI take over your sense of creativity, individual decision making, agency, and all of those things? And how do you retain your voice and role in a changing world in that aspect? And um, I've done 3 book salons so far, like one a month, and then I publish a newsletter. Actually, had one yesterday called "The Story of Stories" by Kevin Ashton. So Kevin Ashton is a technologist who coined the term "the Internet of Things," and he explored the history of storytelling over the million years of the human race, starting from oral storytelling by the fire to the printing press to the smartphone age, and then how the AI revolution is going to change storytelling. And I discussed how our role in that, and how do you bring your agency and your voice in that in a self-informed way. And these are the kind of themes I hope to explore in that book salon, in that newsletter. And if you're interested, definitely do connect with me on LinkedIn and subscribe.
I'm just
And
gonna,
how this
yeah,
evolves over time. A lot of people ask me to, like, you should do this on Substack. It's just 3 months old. I'm seeing how this changes, and I might see how this evolves and changes over time. But that's the other thing. Yeah,
let me see if I can.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is what you're saying.
Exactly.
I don't. It doesn't quite have yesterday's episode yet, but I guess it'll go up.
It would go up. Yeah. This is the newsletter, so the newsletter comes out in the following week, so it'll be up by Tuesday. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. This is really good. I haven't seen.
And that's what I'm writing this
so.
weekend. Yeah, that newsletter.
Are you using AI to help you?
And this is the main thing. Yeah. No, this is a very important point. So, with my creative writing, that is a big no-no. There is no AI in my poetry and my prose. Like, no. But then it's like, what is the role of AI in writing? Is there a role? Is this cannibalized? And I'm trying to building this as a safe space where how do you leverage? How do you, if you do, how do you leverage AI in your writing? Where I am expected to leverage AI in my work, but I am increasingly concerned on how it would take over my voice. So this newsletter is a way for me to experiment with Claude, with feeding in my first draft to see what it spits out, and trying to build conscious boundaries over time. So yes, in this newsletter, I do leverage writing with Claude. All of the writing is my own, but I do like opine with Claude to see what's missing, what are the things. So the first newsletter came out in a different way than the latest one. The first one I did have like Claude help build me on the idea and what it is, and there are like at least one solid paragraph out there that was spit out by Claude that I then edited. The third one, I'm like, no, that is way too extreme. I want to retain my agency. And I wrote the full thing. I asked Claude, what's missing in terms of what I want to resonate with the audience, and pointed out a few things. I wrote it on my own and then tried to get that feedback back and forth. And that's the kind of conscious co-intelligence, which is the second newsletter. That's the kind of relationship I'm trying to build with AI, where I see that it may have a role to play in my life, but then there are definite boundaries where in my creative work and writing, no, that is way too sacred to have AI inform that, man. I still don't see how that's going to inform your poetry and writing.
Play a video.
You can't do that, no.
Oh, no. Okay, so like you're saying something like this. You use AI to help you write.
Bits and pieces.
Bits and pieces.
Had the structure. I was talking about the first one, not this one, but yeah, it's definitely with. We're going into detail. So this is Co-Intelligence. This is a book by Ethan Mullick that I dissected, which is like.
I'm not saying we want to cover this whole article, since I would just direct them to reading this article and not talking about your article here. Yeah. But like the point is, like, I can see what you mean by like different kinds of writings as well. You're wanting to be able to leverage different tools. So yeah.
Right, and also like leaning into something which I foresee might disrupt my life anyway. I feel abstinence from AI is not going to help me. So I need to find a space to see what it can do and where it can help or hinder me. And this is that safe space where I can experiment with AI without damaging or putting my creative writing on the line, where I don't want to subject that to AI in any way. So that's how I look at it. Yeah.
So my friend Natalia asked "Story of Stories." I don't know what that means.
That is the book I referenced. That's the session I did yesterday. that was the book salon I hosted
Oh,
yesterday
okay.
live,
Of
and then I'll be
course.
writing a newsletter on that. So Natalia, it's the story of stories by Kevin Ashton, Ashton.
Kevin Ashton. Okay, yeah, but it'll be up on your LinkedIn soon enough, right? So I'm sure.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, yeah, that's definitely right. Since we also talked about that the other day, actually, I think the story of stories. Yeah,
Yeah, I was telling you about that book. Yeah, when I was reading it. Yeah. When we met. Yeah.
absolutely. All right, so we cover like we've hit the hour and a half mark, on this live stream. So I think we could go on for another hour, but I'm getting to the point where
We can do a part two someday. Yeah, just to make.
Hey, as a writer, as we said, you're constantly creating new works, and you're experiencing new things. If assuming you go to Seattle for that writers, um, what do you call that? Not retreat. What do you call that?
The writer's room, a writer
Writer,
in residence program. Yeah.
either residence, yeah. Assuming you go there, or assuming you go elsewhere in your journey,
Yeah.
you're bound to have new experiences that we can discuss. That's going to affect you
Absolutely.
and affect your writings.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Creativity does not flourish in a vacuum. It comes from your life experiences, which you're constantly accumulating. So
100%. 100%.
all right, with that, I did, I think, slightly interrupt what you were going to say earlier before we jumped into the LinkedIn AI stuff. Was it?
I was just going to say, reading is a big part of writing. So writing, as you said, it cannot exist in a vacuum, but it is informed by your reading practice as well. So if you are writing, you need to read.
What are you reading?
And I think
Actually, I have not even asked that question even once.
I brought a lot of books that were just nonfiction that I do enjoy reading, but a lot of joy comes from fiction and poetry. So I am currently reading. I'm reading it slowly. It's not a big book, but I've spent a lot of time reading this. I was reading this in the Sahara. So this is called The Conference of the Birds. It's poetry by Attar. So this is Attar of Nishapur is a 12th, 13th century Sufi mystic who lived a long time ago, and this is one of the old epics that's been translated from Persian. He has a very interesting life story, and like the way he died is also very brutal, but also very storied. Check it out. But his poetry touches on themes of Sufism and life. And if you've heard about Rumi and you enjoy Rumi's poetry, you would enjoy this as well. So would recommend checking this out. And then
in this one, since this apparently you can find it on the SufiPathOfLove.com, where it has the whole book for those of you who stay reading an ebook.
Yeah.
But you're saying if somebody likes who?
Rumi.
Oh yeah, I like Rumi. I probably like this.
Yeah. And then another book that I could recommend that I am checking out. That's I borrowed from the library, but I need to read it. Where did it go?
I don't know.
Never mind. It went back to the library because I did not read it. I will have a big reading list, but
I mean, I have a huge reading list, so I can never. There's never enough. What is it, guy? There's never enough time to read all the books I want to read, and
it's
probably
a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. Yeah.
Right,
awesome.
right.
That's all I had to add, man, about the reading thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that works. I mean, that's a very. Thanks for recommending all these books. So, and completely for everyone out there, if you want to be a writer, it's never too late. One thing, and two, you could actually anyone really could, since your life experiences all play a role in that, and everybody has gone through life to some extent. and it's not dependent on your skill level or how good you are at organizing your sentences or your vocabulary. It's what comes out of your heart. This is what I believe. So yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
don't let that stop you.
Very true, man.
All right. So all right, we're gonna wrap this up. Everybody, please subscribe to Nadir's Substack. There's going to be more content there, I'm sure.
Fingers
And
crossed.
of course, he has Instagram as well. It's just his name, so you can find it. And feel free to drop a comment on this episode or this YouTube comment section later. I understand a lot of you may not even be watching this live since kind of gave out a last minute notice. So if you're watching this later, be sure you can drop a comment as well. So like, it doesn't have to be right now. So, all right.
Thank you so much for having me, man, and just talking about my work.
Thank you. This has been a great pleasure, and it's been a pleasure knowing you as a friend and a writer as well.
Likewise.
So,
Likewise.
all right. With that, I'm going to end it here. And so, yeah. So
take care, man. Yeah. Bye. Take care.